Willys MB shock absorber installation. The shock absorber installation is basically the same on the front and the rears. You have two pins or posts that are on the top and lower shock mounts. Here's a rear shock. Take a good look at it here. I've got it all painted up with the Ron Fitzpatrick Jeep Parts OD green, but notice this plate. It's called a stone guard. When you mount the rear shock, the plate or stone guard is faced forward towards the axle. Take a look here. This is a common problem when you have a chassis off restoration. The springs and shackles are not fully compressed because the weight of the tub is not present. The rear spring will have to be compressed about 3/4 to an inch. I'm just going to use a simple rag to protect the frame and a ratchet strap you can buy from any hardware store. I've oriented the ratchet strap through the lower shock mount U-bolts so it can't move from the bottom, interlock the two end S-hooks together, and then orient the ratchet strap towards the top of the frame so you can manipulate it easily. It doesn't take very much pressure to compress the springs and to move the shackles into their position. Take the shock absorber and mount it on the post without the bushings. This will give you a reference point on how much you need to compress the springs. Compress the springs until the eyelets of the shock absorber are in the center of the posts. Apply a thin layer to the complete surface of the mounting post. This will help greatly in installation of the shock absorber. Each shock absorber requires 4 rubber bushings. The rubber bushing part number is 637936. Install the bushing with the tapered end towards the inner side of the eyelet on the shock absorbers as shown here. You'll have to do 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. If you put a little pressure on the bushings with your thumb, they should stay in place in the eyelets during installation of the shock absorber. Remembering to keep the stone guard forward towards the axle tube and the larger diameter part of the shock absorber up, install the bushings onto the post. You may have to wiggle back and forth a little bit, but that's why we installed the grease earlier. It's going to make it really easy. I like to push them on about halfway until the post comes flush with the outer bushing. Working on the upper and lower parts of the shock absorber, make sure the bushings make contact with the faces of the upper and lower shock mounts. Next, install the washer on the outside of the post. The washer is part number A227. Once you install the washer, you'll notice that you can no longer see the hole for the cotter pin. The bushings will have to be compressed in order to install the cotter pin. I found a tool online that I'm trying out for the first time to compress the bushings on the shock absorbers. It's a simple screw mechanism that forces pressure onto the washer, and the cup that's designed will go right over the top of the post in the shock mount. In order to use the tool, we'll have to slide the bushings just a little bit backwards and install the back side of the tool against the mounting bracket and install the front side so that the slot in the hole lines up with the hole for the cotter pin. The machine fitting on the front of the tool fits right over the top of the post. We can then just turn the handle and compress the 2 bushings. As the 2 bushings are compressed, it has a tendency to pull away from the back side of the mounting plate, so we'll just simply tap it in with a soft face mallet until we can see the hole for the cotter pin clearly. Install the cotter pin, part number 52946, into the cotter pin hole, and then turn back on the screw mechanism to release the tool from the shock absorber. There are other methods for compressing the bushings. This tool seemed to work pretty well. Once the tool is removed, using a pair of needle nose pliers, I'll bend the legs of the cotter pin towards the front and the back to secure the washer. Complete the same process on the lower shock mount. With the shock absorber installed, there's no longer pressure on the ratchet strap, so I'll simply unclip it and remove it. I've done no damage to the frame nor the lower mounting bracket with the strap, so that worked out really well. The shock absorber is installed and ready to go.